So I guess a lot of people don't know what your undergraduate degree was in.
So I was at UCLA in political science and then Harvard Law School.
Okay. So you don't have, you wouldn't consider yourself an expert in sociology?
I mean, I don't consider sociology a particularly expert field, but go ahead.
What I'm getting at is that you're not considered an expert in sociology, psychology, gender studies, lesbian dance theory, many of these things that you've brought up tonight.
I know a lot more about all those others than lesbian dance theory. As far as, if you want to take issue with the argument, I would urge you not to use the argument from authority, which is somebody has a PhD by their name, they know what they're talking about.
Right. No,
that's a dumb argument. I don't need a 7-year degree in sociology, no bullshit when I hear it.
You're also offering kind of an unqualified opinion on a lot of these topics.
See, again, you're just making the argument from authority. I don't think slapping a PhD from Ferris State next to your name makes you an expert in all things in the field in which you propose to speak. Okay, the fact is that either my argument's good or my argument's bad. Citing to my credentials is a really bad way of making an argument. It's like it's actually the equivalent of, it's so funny, when people do this, it's the equivalent of actually a religious person saying, citing to the Bible for an argument. I'm a very religious person, right? I mean, see this? It's the yarmulke, okay? I'm a religious person, okay? I never cite to the Bible. The reason I don't cite to the Bible is because that's an argument from authority. Okay, you may not believe the authority to which I'm citing. I don't believe the authority to which you're citing. So you're going to have to make me an argument as to what I'm saying that's wrong instead of just saying I don't have the properly enumerated degree from the institution of your choice.
I'm merely citing academia. If you haven't done any significant study or any type of educational, you haven't established yourself as a PhD or a doctorate in any of these programs, so how can you make a qualified opinion on any of these topics is my question.
Because I have read the studies and I can have an opinion on them.
And that's your opinion and mine was just stated, so thank you.
Yes, that was my opinion. It does not make them appear. What makes more things appear is a market-based system that creates more doctors, that creates more medical care, that creates more incentive for people to join up. It is better to treat things as goods than as rights, because declaring something a right just means that you have the right to steal it from me. The basic name trickle-down economics is not something that any conservative even proposed. It's a leftist revision of what economics actually is, because you're not giving me the money. It was my money in the first place, created through voluntary transactions that I had with others. I've not stolen money from anyone, neither have you. And the idea that money has to be forcibly taken from you and handed to somebody at the bottom end of the economic spectrum to somehow jog the economy, that may jog McDonald's, but is not going to jog all of the creation of the products and services that make all of our lives much better today than they were 30 years ago in terms of the stuff we have access to. When you say money in politics is bad, again, I ask you, Buddy Roemer gave you $4 million to start TYT. What did he expect in return? Should he not have given you money? Was the money not speech? It was just money, after all. It's just like a hooker, I assume. So are you the prostitute? How did this work?
There's many things you can't do with your money, and one of those should be bribing politicians, but we made it legal. So I'm curious what your opinion on that is. Do you think that they're just golly shucks, they just mean well? And
Cenk, you're a lawyer, so you know that bribery requires two parties to the bribe. If I give money to a politician, there must be something in return. If there is no quid pro quo, there is no bribery.
You think there's nothing in return?
Well,
you think the politicians don't do those favors?
I think very often there is something in return, but I want you to point me to the things that are in return, not just say that all spending on politics ought to be forbidden except for the Young Turks. Young Turks is super successful. We have 80 million uniques. It's wonderful. Do you think Bernie Sanders would care more if you gave him $10,000 or if you dedicated your entire network to kissing his ass for an election cycle?
That some people don't have privilege when you basically just said that trans people aren't valid. They're not a thing. They're just girls pretending to be boys or boys pretending to be girls.
Okay. Oh, someone's excited. Okay.
That's biological, but gender is a completely different thing.
No, gender is not disconnected from sex. So.
It's not completely disconnected, but it's still a cultural thing. It's still from society.
Okay. No, it is not in the mind. Okay. You're not a man if you think you're a man. And I didn't say pretending, or if I did, I shouldn't have said pretending. Let me amend.
You said playing.
Okay, I said a boy who thinks he's a girl. That's the usual phraseology I use. Not playing. I usually say a boy who thinks he's a girl or a girl who thinks he's a boy, which is technically what we're talking about here. As far as the actual psychological issues at play, it used to be called gender dysphoria or gender identity disorder. Now they call it gender dysphoria. The idea that sex or gender are malleable is not true. Okay, and I'm not denying your humanity if you're a transgender person. I am saying that you are not the sex to which you claim to be. you're still a human being, and you're a human being with an issue that I wish you Godspeed in dealing with in whatever way you see fit. But if you are going to dictate to me that I'm supposed to pretend that men are women and women are men, no. My answer is no. I'm not going to modify basic biology because it threatens your subjective sense of what you are.
Okay, but you're still saying these kids should not be accepted because they don't really fit in either place? They can't just
I'm saying that the Boy Scouts have a standard. You must be a biological boy to be a Boy Scout. You have to be a boy to be a Boy Scout.
Where's that written though? Okay.
In the name Boy Scouts. Yeah, no, I appreciate
you
that.
You better live up to it.
I look at that old tape and suddenly I hit puberty, right?
We both look so young.
Oh, my God.
That's probably over 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Right.
10 years ago.
And it was interesting because I was at the time, getting very angry about a series of mass shootings in America with a British sensibility and saying, obviously in my country, we don't really have any guns. And I was, hectoring and lecturing, I guess, Americans about their gun laws, and it went down as badly as that phrase would suggest, particularly with you. But what was interesting was when you came on, I thought, who's this snotty little kid who's going to start trying to take me on? And then it rapidly became clear to me you were a hell of a lot smarter than you appeared. So we've moved on from then. Anyway, we've had our kiss and make-up interview after that. But I think what was really interesting to me, 2016, so 7 years ago now, you tweeted a tweet. This is your pinned tweet to this date. Simply said, facts don't care about your feelings. And if any phrase, I think, perfectly epitomises this woke era that we have somehow stumbled into, it's that. Because the woke brigade put feelings before facts. How do we get there?
Well, culturally speaking, I think that what happened is that the value of subjective authenticity became the core to pretty much everybody. So the idea of individualism was taken to its logical extreme, which was, I'm so important and everything I feel is so important that I can ignore the rest of reality. And in fact, reality is an imposition on me. Institutions, rules, roles, the rules of the road, all that sort of stuff, it's an imposition on who I truly am. And in order for me to be actually free, I have to speak my truth. Now, as I've said and you've said, there's no such thing as my truth, right? There's your opinion and then there's the truth. But as soon as you start speaking in terms of my truth, as soon as you start saying, well, there's how I feel about the world and how I feel about the world is the core of me, what that also does is it means that other people are aggressing on you when they disagree with you. Because obviously a shared reality means that we can disagree about things out here, but we sort of as human beings are intact. But the moment that you start to identify your truth with the truth, then anybody attacking your truth is attacking you as a human being. And I think that that's where we've gone, is this movement away from, we're having a political debate, but again, we can go out and have a drink afterward because we are not the political debate. The political debate's a different thing. To my politics are who I am, or my feelings about who I am, or my feelings about the world. That's the thing that matters more than anything else.
And what's extraordinary, I remember this, we're going to come to them later, sadly, but Meghan and Harry, when they went on Oprah Winfrey, and she started talking constantly about my truth, and Oprah was endorsing your truth and everything. I was thinking, I'm living in a sort of mad world where truth is no longer factual. It's just whatever you're feeling in any given moment. It seems such a perverse thing for a democratic society that you move away from fact-based, from science, whatever it may be, to just feelings dominating a culture. And if you defy those feelings, you are instantly branded the enemy and you must be destroyed.
Well, there's no conversation to be had, right? I can't have a conversation about your feelings. You're feeling your feelings. There's no way for me to dissuade you from
You can't deny my feelings.
Correct. I can't deny. I can deny the facts that you bring to the table. But the problem is, once that becomes irrelevant, then we're just at an impasse. There's no more conversation to be had.
How big a problem is it that at the same time, simultaneously, I think, you've had the rise of very populist leaders like Donald Trump, Boris Johnson in the UK, and others who play pretty fast and loose with the truth? That you have people who say, well, hang on, you talk about the sanctity of truth, but you've got these political leaders, US presidents, British prime ministers, where they don't seem to care about the truth. They just bumble through with whatever suits them from day to day. How dangerous is that to the whole shebang?
I think that is dangerous, but it's dangerous in a different way. And it's also dangerous in a more consistent and, I would say, historically precedented way. The fact is that politicians have always fibbed to us. There's nothing new about politicians saying things that are not true, from LBJ to George W. Bush to Donald Trump and Barack Obama. literally every politician.
And Joe Biden.
To President Biden. Right? You see this all the time. So the idea of a politician not telling the truth or shading the truth in particular ways, that's not what's new. I think what's new is where people are presented with data and their immediate response isn't, let me bring you some data that rebuts that data, but I don't even have to look at your data because your motivation is bad. Right? This philosophy.
How dangerous is it, though, that we've also become incredibly tribal? I think more than I can ever remember in modern history, actually. You know, when I read your Twitter feed, I think you're always prepared to call out your own side if you genuinely feel there's been some egregious wrongdoing that they've done or a terrible mistake or whatever. But the number of people prepared to do that now, on social media in particular, is minuscule. Most people park themselves into their tribe, whatever that tribe may be, and there is no moving them. There's no deviation, even if the facts change. And again, it plays into, well, if your feelings are the facts, then if you feel that fact is wrong, well, that's enough.
Right. But the tribalism that I think has cropped up is rooted in a philosophy called emotivism, which is the idea that everybody's actual viewpoints are not driven by their view of the facts. It's driven by their internal emotions. What that allows me to do on the converse is attribute malicious intent to people that I'm arguing with. And it means that I get to ignore all of their facts. The reason that I'm disagreeing with you is because I'm good and you're a bad person. And what that means is that people on my own side, for example, they might be upset with me for talking with people on the other side of the aisle, because why would you talk to somebody who's a nasty person, who has bad motivations? And the same thing on people on the other side talking to me. I was having a conversation one time with a very, very large left-wing podcaster. This is probably 2018. And I said, we should really do like a crossover podcast for the midterm elections. We'll do huge business. And my side will be totally fine with it. It'll be great. And he said, your side will be fine with it. My side will kill me.
Right.
And that's probably
But that's
right.
the way it's gone. And Bill Maher said to me, that comedy used to be rooted really in right-wing extremism being comedic. And that was where liberal comics like him could
a first trimester fetus has moral value?
Okay, so a first trimester fetus has moral value because whether you consider it a potential human life or a full-on human life, it has more value than just a cluster of cells. If left to its natural processes, it will grow into a baby. So the real question is, where do you draw the line? So you're gonna draw the line at the heartbeat, because it's very hard to draw the line at the heartbeat. There are people who are adults who are alive because of a pacemaker. They need some sort of outside force generating their heartbeat. You're gonna do it based on brain function. Okay, well, what about people who are in a coma? Should we just kill them? The problem is, anytime you draw any line other than the inception of the child, you end up drawing a false line that can also be applied to people who are adults. So either human life has intrinsic value or it doesn't. I think we both agree that adult human life has intrinsic value. Can we start from that premise?
I believe that sentience is what gives something moral value.
If you are in a coma from which you may awake, can I stab you?
No. I guess not. I mean, but that's still potential sentience, and it's still a potential.
I agree. It is potential sentience. You know what else is potential sentience? Being a fetus.
Why exactly do you?
That's just the reality of the situation. You wonder why so many people in America are fat? One good reason: our society incentivizes fatness. There is a piece by Daniel Pinnock, an actress, writer, and comedian, and star of the CBS sitcom Ghosts, and the creator of the one-woman show Body/Courage. Oh man, will it be more stunning or will it be more brave? She has a piece over at the Washington Post titled "What the Fat Shamers Don't Get About Lizzo." And she says this: I understand why Lizzo took a beat from Twitter. Last month, the Emmy and Grammy-winning multi-hyphenate artist, a classically trained flute-playing rapper, singer-songwriter, actress, and fashion mogul, was under attack again from internet trolls bombarding her with vicious messages about her weight. This time, it got so bad she locked down her Twitter account, writing, "Y'all don't know how close I be to giving up on everyone and quitting." I don't think that was phrased in sort of the Shakespearean, the sort of Old English. Y'all don't know how close I be. And I don't think that's what she was going to. Anyway, Lizzo embraces inclusivity for everyone who has a body. Everyone who has a body, as opposed to what? The bodiless? I mean, who are the people who don't have a body? Why isn't she including them? She chants the mantra of body positivity for all humans, not just the fat ones. Her songs, including Good as Hell and Truth Hurts, have resonated with millions of people as anthems of empowerment and self-acceptance. Ah, self-acceptance and empowerment. Now, here's the reality. If you want a path to unsuccess, you should follow the pathway of empowerment and self-acceptance. Great way to fail in life. Empowerment and self-acceptance means that you say that you are fine just as you are. No one, saints should not be fine just as they are. The best people are people who are always striving to better themselves and to better the people around them. You should not feel empowered just being you. You shouldn't wake up in the morning feeling, I am my best me. You are not your best you. There is a better you out there, and it's just a short distance away if you strive to change yourself. And it's, again, when it comes to the treadmill of life, the treadmill is moving underneath you. If you're standing still, you're moving backwards. Either you're moving forwards or you're falling off the treadmill. But empowerment and self-acceptance, quote, she lives freely and unapologetically. This sort of language makes me just want to vomit. Freely and unapologetically, as opposed to living in chains apologetically, whether twerking on the beach with her besties or modeling stylish crop tops from her shapewear brand, Yitty. But for years, Lizzo has faced backlash from people made uncomfortable by her unabashed acceptance of herself, who'd rather see her concealed in oversized cardigans and potato sacks. I love that the alternatives here are potato sacks or thongs. I feel like there's a whole wide range, a magical range of clothing that fits between potato sacks and thongs. What about her weight? People say she's promoting obesity. No, she isn't. There's a difference between endorsing obesity and practicing self-love. Well, not when her self-love involves promoting obesity. There's a fairly high crossover right there. When most people think of obesity, says this columnist, perhaps they think of skyrocketing BMIs or overweight people with chronic diseases or TV shows such as My 600-Pound Life or The Biggest Loser. Lizzo is not promoting any of that. She is just trying to exist while lifting others up. That's such a lie, by the way. She says the new standard of beauty is Lizzo. And so does the media. The media say Lizzo is a beautiful, beautiful woman. She's beautiful at whatever her weight is. She's got to be at least 150 pounds overweight. But it doesn't matter because, again, this is the new standard. Now, I have a question. Is it a recipe for your success to imitate Lizzo's actions? I love that this lady tries to turn Lizzo into a sort of fitness guru. She got me back in the gym, says this columnist. Seeing someone who looks like me, not ashamed or hating her body while exercising, changed my entire perspective on fitness. Did it, though? As opposed to saying to yourself, maybe we actually should not look like that. And the way to not look like that is not just to go to the gym. It's to actually change our diets. Caloric deficit is a real thing.
Deal. Let's let Ben Shapiro introduce this idea. This is Ben Shapiro just a week ago today talking about Hunter Biden.
Yeah, and also I would say, as Bradley pulls that up, the Biden DOJ and its integrity in general. And I mean, we don't know when Ben's show airs, but he's got to be correcting the record on this any second now, I'd imagine. Or at least, pouring praise onto Joe Biden himself.
All right, hear it.
Everybody under the sun is now attacking and attempting to prosecute and put in jail Donald Trump. And so Trump, predictably enough, is like, okay, fine, you want to do it, I'll do it too. And this will be the game from here on out. When the Justice Department gets reduced to pure politics, you got a problem. Now, I hear people screaming, all right, well, but you just said that Trump may have committed criminal activity here. The allegations against him are very strong. That's true. The only way that you actually restore the credibility of the justice system is to have Republicans prosecute Republicans and Democrats prosecute Democrats. Because the minute that this now crosses the aisle, we become so politically polarized and partisan that if the basic line here is that Republicans are just supposed to accept that Republicans who are guilty of crimes get indicted and Democrats who are guilty of crimes get slots on CNN and MSNBC, that is not a workable solution for anyone. In order to reestablish credibility, when credibility has been lost, when an institution has lost its credibility, everybody has to do something painful. Everybody has to do something. Everybody has to make a sacrifice. The sacrifice in this particular case would be Joe Biden looking at this and saying, listen, I think that he probably committed the crime, but guess what? I'm not going to prosecute him because we believe that Hillary Clinton should have been prosecuted.
This is so...
Or at the very least, you could, this would have been an easy call, by the way. The DOJ could have said, at the same time they were doing this, politically speaking, Merrick Garland could have said, we're also bringing charges against Hunter. Right? That would have shielded, because Hunter is clearly guilty of a bevy of crimes up to and including violation of gun law. So that could have happened. They didn't do that either. Again, the double standard is what's going to destroy the credibility of the institution. The only way to restore the credibility of the institution is even-handed application of justice against your own side, not when it looks politically valuable to go after your chief political opposition. And that's why this thing is going to remain incredibly polarized.
Really important in a functioning democracy to have Americans see one another as fellow Americans as opposed to an identity that needs to be super combative with a different identity. And I think that's what we've kind of turned into. You and I clearly have a lot of disagreements on policy, disagreements on culture, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're an awful person. It doesn't mean that I should be afraid of you. If anything, I should prove that I genuinely believe my political views by engaging in these debates. If I can defend what I believe with actual facts, statistics, empirical evidence, well, that only proves that there's good reason to believe in the policies that I'm promoting. And it's easy to be in an echo chamber where everyone already agrees with you, but you're not really being challenged. So I like to be challenged. I like to put my political ideas to the test, and I think this is a good opportunity to do it.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I really like about you as a person. We actually got to know each other when we did a debate about a year ago, I think, over in Pennsylvania, and we were talking in the green room beforehand, and we got along as human beings. And one of the things that's nice about conversations like this is, again, what you say I think is super important, which is that the social fabric of the country is going to be built on the idea that people can have conversations like this, and yet it's considered so unusual and so crazy. Have you gotten any blowback for being willing to do conversations like this one?
I have. I will say, it is a small portion of a very loud group of self-identified leftists on Twitter, for instance. They'll get very upset. They'll accuse me of platforming you, even though, I don't know if they notice, you've got a bit of a platform on your own. I don't need to help you in building a platform or platforming you. I think that there's this very real fear that in engaging in these conversations, you are legitimizing the other side. And my point is, as long as the other side's coming at me with good faith arguments, they genuinely believe what they're saying, having these debates is important in actually deciphering what you as the viewer believe, right? Because if you're only listening to one side, if you're listening to leftist media, liberal media, and you don't get the other side at all, your policy ideas are never going to be challenged. You're not going to hear the other side. And I think it's led to this culture right now where Americans overwhelmingly seem to have difficulty with nuance, right? Everything needs to be black and white. And honestly, political issues are usually a lot more complex, a lot more nuanced, and nothing in life is black and white.
And that's what makes them interesting in the first place.
Right.
If it was all that black and white or that easy, you wouldn't have to listen to shows like yours or shows like mine, and you wouldn't have to, I've always encouraged people to listen to shows that are on the other side of the aisle, because otherwise they don't know what I'm saying that's fact and what I'm saying that's opinion. And so I think it's really important for people to hear conversations between people who really, really disagree. You used a phrase there that I think is really important, good faith. And this is one that I've had to kind of think through myself, because obviously there are conversations that are not worth having. You'll have people online who will say, you should go talk to this person. This person happens to be, like dregs of the earth. And then you say, well, I don't really wish to talk to, and they say, well, you say you're willing to talk to pretty much anybody. So how do you draw that line? How do you draw the line between somebody who is worth talking to, somebody who's acting in good faith, and somebody who's not really acting in good faith?
Well,
if you watch movies, you've already seen Meet the Parents with Ben Stiller. You know what happens when a man and a woman get in a volleyball match. So people will say, before we even play the clip, I want to preface this spin a little bit. People will say this happens all the time in volleyball, what you're about to see. People get hit in the face all the time in volleyball. There's a difference between getting hit in the face with a ball coming 50 miles per hour. That hurts. Yeah. No, that's that. But when it comes 150 miles per hour, it just, the sound that this makes, okay? Let's go ahead and play the clip. When a man plays a woman's sport, the man will be spiking the ball. The woman will be feeling her face getting broken. Let's play the clip.
Oh, man.
Yeah, here we go.
You feel it coming.
Oh, look at that dude.
They highlighted it. Huddle.
That's 2,000 years of evolution coming right at you.
This is where.
Boom!
Oh my goodness.
I mean, we can't look, and we laugh, and look, it's whatever.
Funny.
I feel horrible for those girls, just like I feel horrible for the girls that had to swim against, Michael Phelps reincarnate, Leah Thomas. That's one of the worst male swimmers, comes over and looks like Michael Phelps when she's swimming against women. Ben, at some point, do these people not realize how dangerous this is? Is it going to take a UFC fighter, a man, just beating a woman to death in the octagon for them to realize how crazy this is?
Well, I mean, I think even if that happened, they would just ignore it.
They would. They say it's equality.
Right. I mean, the whole point here is that everyone can see the things that are happening in front of their eyes. And we keep seeing this stuff. I mean, you mentioned Leah Thomas. I mean, that race where Leah Thomas is 2 pool lengths ahead of all of the women. People are like, this is an amazing female performance. This is just incredible. It's like the same thing happening right here. I mean, you watch this particular video, and at the beginning, the male is not on the screen. You're like, where's the dude? And then the male comes on the screen. That's
for sure.
You mean the very, very tall human who's significantly taller and stronger than everybody else out there? Yeah. And that person apparently put this in their college reel. Really? He put it in his college reel. Because it's a high school thing. I think that they were trying. This person was trying to apply for a female scholarship at a college and put it in their highlight reel, just spiking a ball directly into the face of a woman, which normally would be classified as some form of abuse, is now apparently athletic prowess. So I mean, it's astonishing. But yeah, I very much look forward to playing Little League baseball against the 12-year-olds.
Oh yeah,
I will smoke them. I will be the Barry
You're
Bonds.
like Rob Schneider from Benchwarmers. That's exactly what it is. That's really what it is. And it's so common sense. I mean, just think about this sentence. Men playing women's sports with women. Just think about that. Take all your